Greetings to all. Christ University is honored to host the International Playback Theatre Conference in India for the first time. We feel privileged to interview the very committed and enthusiastic Mr. Jori Pitkanen, the president of the IPTN. Mr. Jori has been a central figure in the playback theatre community since the past decade. He was elected as the IPTN president in Budapest in 2017 and has been since serving the community and working passionately towards advancing this unique art form. Mr. Jori, thank you for taking out the time to talk to us.
Thank you for having me.
Firstly, I would want to discuss with you the theme of this IPTN Conference India, that is celebrating diversity. According to you, why is there a dire and urgent need of knowing and understanding stories that are outside of our culture? How does playback theatre entertain this diversity and its dire necessity?
In playback theatre, we try to understand the stories of the storytellers from their perspective, and we don't try to somehow just fit the storytellers into our perspective. We are not trying to teach how to be human, but we are trying to understand what it is for you to be human. And I think that's a unique perspective, and especially when at this time there's so much division, polarization, left wing, right wing, and many other polarities in the world, different countries at war. This is one of the ways, not the only way, but one of the ways to understand each other better and also understand what's different in us, but also what we share, the similar stories about humanity, being sons, daughters, mothers, fathers, lovers, husbands. Those are universal stories in every culture.
In the recent past, playback theatre has been used in various fields, even involved in human rights issues, civic issues, in fact even in climate change. Not to mention it has grown from being a part of just personal events like birthdays, weddings and conferences to talking about such huge issues. How do you think has playback theatre been so powerful to make people think about these certain very important issues? How has playback theatre helped in driving social changes for the betterment of the society?
I think it depends very much on the performing group and how they are prepared to deal with different themes. But in every performance, the audience gets to see their stories on stage. And that's a very powerful moment when you see your story portrayed. It helps also you, because you get this mirror, it helps you also realize things about yourself sometimes also that, oh, maybe I should not think like that. And also when others see your story, you get a moment of feeling understood, heard, seen. And I think we all want to be accepted as we are, and that is very much in this art form. And I think that's why it also helps with many tensions in the society.
So you've been doing playback theatre since more than a decade now. It is safe to say that you know this field inside out, probably by now. Playback is done by people who want to understand others and who want to do some good in the society. So for a veteran like you, how will you trace the evolution of playback theatre from the time when you just started, when playback theatre was new to the whole world, comparing to what it has become now?
Yeah, playback theatre started almost 44 years ago, and at that time it started pretty much with the idea of human rights being involved in it, since Jonathan Fox was active in that area. And I got introduced to playback theatre when I was studying theatre, and in that setting I did not really know about all the applications in that moment. And for a long time I did playback theatre just in my group and had no idea about, but when I went to the Playback Society, I understood what all applications there are, what amazing projects there are, and especially when I came to the International Society, because there are many countries with people doing playback where there's a real urgent need, whereas in Finland it is still sadly pretty much a thing of more of the middle class. There are some groups who do more active playback theatre, but most performances are done by groups for open audiences or for companies, which is great too, because I think it should be everywhere. But this social aspect, this social change aspect is not as present there.
Right. So you mentioned in your bio that you also train teachers this art of playback theatre. So is playback theatre part of the curriculum of education in Finland? And how do you link education with playback theatre?
It's not part of the curriculum, but it's very common in Finland to use different drama methods in teaching. And my first education was I have a master's in education, and after studying theater, I wanted to start teaching the methods that I learned to other teachers. And playback theater is a very good tool to help the children start understand with how to be with their emotions, understand each other's emotions. When children develop, the understanding of the other develops only a bit later. And this is one of the tools, how to practice it. How could I understand why my friend feels bad when I took his ice cream away? Because I could just be happy about the ice cream and not care. But if I understand and empathize, then maybe I give it back.
It's very fascinating. Maybe we, even in India, can learn from your educational tips. You are also a psychodramatist.
Yes.
Now, for our audience, can you explain this specific term a little bit?
Yes. So, psychodrama is founded by Jacob Moreno. It was in the early 1900s, and it is a form where it's a therapeutical form where you explore your own life on stage. So it is somewhat, there are some similarities between playback and psychodrama, and also many playback theatre practitioners are psychodramatists, but it is a form of therapy where you are not just in your mind because you do things on stage. Your body helps you remember things that you otherwise might not, and it is a very powerful form and it also has extensive it needs many years to train to be a psychodramatist.
You mentioned it's therapeutic. So how exactly playback theatre helps people to overcome negative emotions or trauma, to say?
That, I think, again depends on the
group
on the group and on the conductor. So if it's used in a therapeutic setting, some people are therapists and playback practitioners. So mirroring your life and seeing your life has, like I said before, when you see your life on stage, you realize things about it, and you also get the feeling of being accepted. But playback theatre has not a promise of therapy, because if you do just playback theatre, it might provide this therapeutical setting, and it's a strong tool if used by a therapist. But it also can just be very entertaining and fun and light. And this therapeutic part, I think, also in therapy, when you make a realization, the therapeutic thing doesn't happen at that moment, but when you start to process it later on and in life, and it depends on the person who sees their story, do they start thinking about it? Do they start processing and reflecting on what they could learn from it? And if they don't, maybe it's just a nice experience, but if they do, it might have severe effects. So it's playback theatre combined with reflection, processing, maybe workshops, when it's kind of best used in this therapeutical context.
So I read about one of your conferences in Budapest, where you worked with the Blackberry project, which worked with people diagnosed with emotional and cognitive disabilities. So can playback theatre be used with participants and how can it be used with participants suffering from psychological disabilities?
So there I was mostly like watching like what they are doing there.
Okay.
And that Blackberry Tree project was working with development people with developmental disorders, and what I saw there, they did a performance for us. They didn't always have the language, they didn't always have the kind of the dramaturgy or this, but the rawness of their expression was something really impressive, and I remember that very well. And I think again I come back to that yes, you can use it, but then you should do your research on that.
Yeah.
So it's not a magical tool that works without you educating yourself outside of it. If you want to do psychological work, then you better read psychological work first, like how to do it. If you want to work with different groups, it's very good to do the research first and not just go there just saying that playback will heal you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So it also, would you want to share with our audience any personal experience that has actually made an impact in you as a person, that has made significant changes in your personality or in your life?
I think playback theatre in general has made me more interested in what it is to be me. And I remember I went to my first playback theatre practice. I had a huge fight with my current partner at that moment. It was in 2008 when I started doing it in a group of theatre professionals. And I went there and I could share my story, and I started immediately crying, and it was something I had done, something I was not proud of, and I was not judged at all, and they played it beautifully, and afterwards I remember thinking that why was I not judged? I was being a bad person in my opinion, but there was nothing but just showing me that understanding, and that made a huge impact, and that is something I have been practicing ever since, trying to accept people as they are. And I think by practicing this form, there's a great chance that you become more accepting, because you work with all kinds of stories. And I cannot list all the changes playback theatre has made in my life, including my future wife, who I also met in Budapest at the playback gathering.
That's a very powerful experience.
That's a pretty life-changing experience, yes.
Yes, sir. So, sir, to conclude, is there any advice for the young drama enthusiasts that are watching this interview? And can you just tell them how do they become a part of this international playback theatre network if they want to?
Okay, yeah. So playback theatre, interestingly, when in theatre there's many stars. In playback theatre you make the story and the storyteller the star. So it's more important to be interested about others than yourself. Even if you're a conductor, it's not about becoming powerful and having all the stories in your hands. It's about being at service to the others. And if that's something that's inviting, then playback theatre might be for you. But if you're interested in just being a star actor, then playback theatre might not be the best platform for that, because it's not about you, it's about the stories, it's about sharing, it's about humanity. And to become part of the International Playback Theatre Network, we have a website called iptn.info, and there is all the information of how to join. And we also have a regional representative here in India, Rajesh Pi, and who you can contact about becoming a member. There are instructions on the website, but it is in English, so at the moment it's still sadly a bit exclusive, because we are a voluntary organization that doesn't have the resources to translate it into all the languages of all our membership countries. So we are still relying very much on the regional representatives to somehow help people join IPTN. However, we have made it so that different countries have different prices. It's not expensive in any country, and we have related the membership prices to each country's economy. And again, International Playback Theatre Network, we do all we do for free, and we do it for everyone. So becoming a member is more supporting Playback Theatre and more supporting our work than getting something specifically for you. There are some things members get, but it's not an exclusive organization, so everything members get, others get too. But in case we don't have any members, we cannot host conferences like that. We cannot do any of the work that we do, and we are relying on the membership money to be able to spread this and do our work.
For our audience's knowledge, Mr. Rajesh is also a major part of the alumni network of Christ University, who is the regional head of India and other Asian countries for IPTN. And it has been quite clearly an enriching and delightful discussion for us all. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your time and your valuable experience with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.